Welcome into Seattle Seahawks Today, made possible by our friends over at Manscaped. Tell you more about them in a little bit, but you can get 20% off and free shipping on all of their men's grooming products when you go to manscaped.com/chat. On today's video, we're taking a look at some offensive draft targets. Offense only. We'll get the defense maybe later on in the offseason. The Seahawks' first pick this year, all the way down in round 2 at number 56 overall. So the offense does need some help, especially if you want to find a way to keep Russell Wilson happy and make sure he doesn't demand a trade next offseason. And because of that, I think offensive line in particular is going to be a priority focus at number 56 overall. But we won't just look at offensive linemen on today's video. I promise you guys that one. So, look, we'll look at different positions here, bunch of different prospects as well, only focused, as I mentioned, on the offensive side of the ball. But if you want us to do some defensive draft targets, help me out. Seattle has no first-round pick this year. The bosses think you guys don't care about the draft at all. So if you want a defensive draft targets, focused, of course, with that first pick in round 2, I need you guys to help me out and like today's video. The offensive line is a major area of need for Seattle. So let's look at some draft targets in round 2, focusing on offensive tackle and offensive guard. Now, as of right now, you're probably fine at tackle with Dwayne Brown and Brandon Shell, but there are some players who offer some guard tackle flex I think could be worth considering. Let's begin with Alex Leatherwood, the offensive tackle out of Alabama. Now, he's played some guard before, was actually a right guard to begin his career at Alabama, then moved over to left tackle. He's got good power, he's got good length. I don't think he's an elite athlete necessarily, and I think there's a real chance that some people out there think he's going to play guard in the NFL, but maybe he could be a left guard for Seattle in year 1 and then either stay there or kick over to left tackle once Dwayne Brown calls it a career. I think Leatherwood would almost be the ideal draft target for Seattle in round 2, pick 56, right? Yeah, he allowed some sacks and some hurries, but he's a good run blocker. The left guard, left tackle potential hybrid is intriguing to me. I don't know, however, if he's actually going to fall all the way down to the back end of round 2 for Seattle. Someone I do think will be there who plays some tackle is Jackson Carman, the former 5-star recruit from Clemson. As we know, just because you're a 5-star recruit All-American at Clemson does not mean you're going to get drafted, i.e. Mitch Hyatt, but I do think Carman gets taken either late round 2, maybe round 3. Probably not going to fall to round 4, though. He's built more like a guard, and I think he's a real chance to move there from left tackle. So he fits a similar mold as Leatherwood, just a little bit more likely to actually be on the board. 4 sacks allowed this year. There was some miscommunication on the Clemson offensive line. Not entirely sure what caused that one. But if you're looking for someone who, at 6'5", 335, can play somewhere on that left side of the ball, which I think short-term and long-term Seattle needs, that certainly makes sense to me. So I like the idea of Carman. I don't love him at number 56 overall, but maybe even trade down, or maybe there's a big-time run on offensive linemen. Any one of those things could certainly make sense for the Seattle Seahawks. So who do you guys want to draft then on offense for Seattle? I'm going to make this question the pinned comment on today's video. So in a way, you guys can put your favorite Seahawks draft target down there at the pinned comment. Let's go to guard now, focusing on players who played that spot, right? 3 names I want to discuss. Wyatt Davis from Ohio State, Trey Smith from Tennessee, and Deonte Brown from Alabama. Let's begin with Wyatt Davis here, who played right guard, by the way, for the Ohio State Buckeyes. So if you're going to plug him in at left guard since you have Damian Lewis, that would be a position change for Davis. I thought he was, frankly, better in 2019, but he is solid in pass protection. I think overall he's done a pretty good job there. He'd be a strong pick in the event he slides all the way down to round 2. I'm not sure that's the likely outcome for the Seahawks and for Davis in the end, but I think there's some upside here. I think this could be a very instant day 1 starter spot moving positions. Now you see 3 sacks, 1 hit, 1 note. All of those plays came on blitz or stunts, which are a little bit tougher for guards to handle. So one-on-one pass protection, which is what most players will face in the NFL, he's still pretty solid there. I think he's the best guard of the 3 guys we're discussing right now. Let's go to Trey Smith, the Tennessee guard. Former highly touted recruit, has flashed the tools, has the power and length, and if you got that, you're going to get drafted at guard. Despite the production, 1 sack allowed, 1 hit, 4 hurries, and a pretty solid run grade all per PFF, Smith is still fairly inconsistent. Now, there's also one big red flag that will have to be cleared medically, which was at Tennessee, a blood clotting issue earlier in his career that frankly almost ended it for Trey Smith. But he's built the way you want a guard to be built, right? He's 6'6", 335, his listed size there. He has all the tools that you want. I am intrigued. I think between him and Wyatt Davis, Smith, I think, is more likely to be there. And if he is, having played left guard at Tennessee, he's a natural fit for the Seahawks. Let's go to Deonte Brown, who has played both right guard and left guard at Alabama and is an absolutely massive human being. He is huge. If you want a guard that's going to have the best success in a gap power scheme, to use that size to his advantage in the run game, to hold up against nose guards, the big guys on the interior, Deonte Brown fits that mold. He's listed at 350 and came in above that at the Senior Bowl, by the way. But the Alabama prospect, I don't love him in pass protection. I really don't. The 3 hits, 12 hurries, and if he gets matched up against a shiftier 3 technique, like, I don't know, say Aaron Donald, for example, he's not going to hold up very well. So I like Brown. I think he's a bit fit specific, though. And I wonder if specifically for the Seahawks, if he's not the best match, I would actually prefer either a Wyatt Davis or a Trey Smith. But those are the 3 guards, so pick one for me. Who would you rather draft if you're Seattle, if they're all on the board in round 2? Type WD for you want to go get Wyatt Davis, or type in TS for you want to add Trey Smith, or DB for Deonte Brown. Go get your votes in the comments section. Let's go to Manscaped now. They are the presenting sponsor on today's show. If you want to save 20% and get free shipping on all of their fantastic men's grooming products, just head over to manscaped.com/chat. Check the comments and the description. That link will be in there. It's manscaped.com/CHAT. You can get the Lawnmower 3.0. That is the #1 men's grooming tool out there. Doesn't cut you. It's safe. You can use it in the shower, by the way, and trim up some excess hair down there, because let's be honest, nobody wants that. If you get the perfect package, you can get the best boxers known to man. I love them. They're incredibly comfortable. They're my favorite pair, without a doubt. The handy-dandy traveling case, super easy. Ball deodorant, ball toner as well to help you feel and smell a little bit fresher down there in case, someone needs to smell it. Hint, hint. Manscaped.com/chat. 20% off and free shipping. If you use that link, once again, folks, I will ensure that it gets put both in the comment section and in the description. So all you guys got to do is go click, shop, and save some money on the best men's grooming products out there. Center is unquestionably a major need for Seattle, with Ethan Posick set to be a free agent and also didn't play that well last year. So look at some draft targets then at this particular position. 3 names to keep an eye out for at the start of, or the back end, of round 2, the Seahawks' first pick. Landon Dickerson from Alabama is the first guy we'll mention here. Breakout season for Alabama. And by the way, Dickerson has played every single spot on the offensive line in college, and that is very rare. I think in the NFL, though, he's going to be limited to being an interior O-line offense, which is fine. That's all they want anyway. Now, Dickerson did tear his ACL in the SEC title game, and that is at least a mild concern and something that could impact his draft stock. But the guy we saw for Alabama last year, had he not torn his ACL, he was not going to make it to the Seahawks round 2 pick. Frankly, he might have gone a full round before that. Just 1 sack allowed, 2 hits, 2 hurries. He's a good football player. The injury concerns overall are legitimate. That's why he might fall to Seattle in round 2, which I still don't think happens. But in terms of the best center option, Dickerson leads the way. Let's go to Creed Humphrey then, the Oklahoma center, who at the beginning of the year was higher on most NFL teams' draft boards. 3-year starting experience, that's very valuable right there. The numbers look really good in terms of pass protection. No sacks, no hits, 7 hurries this year, never really got beat. Part of that was because in the Big 12, they're like, oh yeah, let's spread them out and let's make teams use three-man fronts against us, which means, guess what? Humphrey wasn't challenged all that much, and I don't think he's as good of a prospect, despite the numbers, as Landon Dickerson. But I do think he might be there in round 2. And if he does, I think he'd be an upgrade over Ethan Posick. So from that perspective, I think it makes quite a bit of sense for Seattle. One more center here. That is Josh Myers, a 2-year starter, by the way, full-time, who only played center for the Buckeyes. So unlike Dickerson, not much positional flex there, at least so far. But I think his size and athletic ability, I think he could play guard as well. And you'll see it in the numbers. Unlike Dickerson, unlike Humphrey, Myers has not been as good in pass protection. I think a pretty good run blocker overall. PFF, where these stats come from, didn't grade him out very well in terms of run blocking, but he did allow, unfortunately, 6 sacks in the past 2 years. That is a lot for a center. Normally speaking, centers don't allow a whole lot of sacks because, well, it's not only their responsibility, they're often helping out more than blocking guys one-on-one. I think he's the 3rd best guy on this list, but real chance he's there for Seattle. So, Seahawks fans, pick a center for me. Which one would you guys rather get on the in round 2 for the Seahawks? Type LD for Landon Dickerson, CH for Creed Humphrey, or JM for Josh Myers. Now, we're going to break down everything around the draft this offseason, plus free agency and a whole lot more. If you want to stay in the know, subscribe today. YouTube.com/Seahawks TV. We're going to keep you guys covered on everything going on around the Seahawks this offseason. So if you don't want to miss out, just go subscribe today. Now, the Seahawks, in terms of adding another wide receiver in the draft, I don't think it's the most likely outcome, but I'd say it's possible. So a couple different names here that I want to keep an eye out for. Rondale Moore, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Elijah Moore. It is not a coincidence that all 3 guys probably project to the slot in the NFL. Because Seattle does not need a number 1 guy. They got DK Metcalf. They don't need a 1B even. They got Tyler Lockett. What they could use, though, is another receiver who can thrive underneath, who can play slot when they put Lockett on the outside and or kick out on the outside sometimes himself. So the 3 names I mentioned, let's begin with Rondale Moore, who, by the way, the Seahawks at least virtually have met with. That is a known fact out there. Rondale Moore, God, he's fun, man. A dynamic playmaker in every sense of the phrase with the ball in his hands. The problem is, and why he's gone from, hey, this guy might go round 1 to he might fall to Seattle in round 2, is simply put, the best ability is availability. And that has not been Rondale Moore's strength the past 2 years. He has barely been able to play football in 2019 and 2020. Look at the difference in the stats, right? 2018, as a true freshman, mind you, 114 grabs, over 1,200 yards, also carried it 21 times, averaged over 10 yards per touch there, 14 total touchdowns, but since then, 64 grabs, 9 carries, only 3 total scores. He didn't score at all this past year for Purdue. 35 grabs. He missed some time early. Purdue never really said why. He's undersized. There's an injury history. If he's healthy, you love him. But it's a what have you done for me now league, and coming off of 2 lesser seasons has unquestionably hurt Moore's draft stock. Let's go to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yes, this is EQ's brother, by the way. Was pretty much a pure slot for USC back in 2019, but did play outside receiver in 2020. I like St. Brown quite a bit. He's a good route runner. I describe him as solid overall. I don't know if there's like oh yeah, this is where he's elite at. It's not in top-end speed. It's not in his hands, but he's a good route runner. He's reliable. I think he fits as he can be your slot. And if you want to put Tyler Lockett in there too to help maximize a mismatch, you can put him on the outside as well. By the way, did a pretty good job in contested catch situations as well this year for USC. I think he's there in round 2. It's a matter of whether or not Seattle wants to spend the premium pick on that position. Let's go to Elijah Moore then, out of Ole Miss, who took another step forward in terms of his production and play in 2020. Now, Moore is a bit undersized, but he's very athletic and has fantastic hands. I think he play a little bit on the outside, but in the end, probably going to be at his best in the slot. His production this year for Ole Miss was awesome. 86 grabs, over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, part of that Lane Kiffin offense. Much like Rondale Moore, I'm not sure he slides into round 2 and the back end of round 2. I think there's a real chance. He also, by the way, fun fact, had a kind of crazy 91-yard touchdown play, which is fun, but, probably not going to be that repeatable in the NFL. I am open to Seattle drafting a receiver early in this year's class. I don't know if round 2 ends up being the most likely move. Maybe round 4 is a better fit, or even after that. So I wanted to include some receivers here that the Seahawks could look at. I don't think that should be their premium pick, though, unless they fill all of their needs via free agency. But you guys can get your votes in here. Should Seattle draft a receiver early? Type 1 for yes, or type in 0 for no. Running back, an area the Seahawks love to have pieces at, also a potential draft target area in round 2 for Seattle. Now, Rashad Penny, DJ Dallas, Travis Homer, Alex Collins are all back next year under contract. We will see about Chris Carson, Carlos Hyde. If Carson's back, they're not going to do it. And they probably won't take a back in round 2, but there are some names to watch out for anyway. The 2 big ones, right? Najee Harris, Travis Etienne. If one of those guys is there in round 2, you probably just go ahead and do it. I think they're both off the board, but they're big names. I wanted to mention them. The focal point today is on 3 other names. 2 guys from UNC, Javonte Williams and Michael Carter, and then Kenneth Gainwell out of Memphis as well. Let's begin with the 2 Tar Heels. First up, Javonte Williams, who he bulked up this year and broke out in the process. Super powerful guy, 75 broken/forced missed tackles per Pro Football Focus. That is insane. Now, he did produce in the passing game, but also had 3 drops this year, and frankly, because he was part of a very talented rotation, had a bit of a limited workload at North Carolina. But if you want a guy who's going to break a bunch of tackles and on that first contract is going to be damn good, he makes a lot of sense for Seattle. 19 scores this year. He's a very good prospect, and I wonder if he could surprise the NFL fans with just how early he ends up going. His tag team partner at North Carolina, Michael Carter. Good vision, good quickness. He's not the biggest guy. Javonte Williams is a big, burly guy. Carter was more of the lightning to the thunder of that combo. 220 for Javonte, 199 for Michael Carter. He's a much smaller guy, but I liked him a lot at the Senior Bowl in particular. He fits what Seattle has liked. He's in that more DJ Dallas pass-catching mold. The production in the end, it looks pretty damn similar, doesn't it? A couple more receiving yards for Javonte, more yards on the ground for Carter, more touchdowns for Javonte in the end. I think Williams is the better of these 2 prospects. I don't know if he's even going to make it to the Seahawks round 2 pick. If he's there, that's the guy I would go if you're going to take a back. In general, I'm not a big fan of adding a back early in the NFL, especially when you need big-time offensive line help. But pick a UNC back for me. Would you rather have Javonte Williams? If so, type in JW. Would you rather have Michael Carter? If so, type in MC for me down there in the comments section. To Kenneth Gainwell now, who did not play in 2020, was a COVID-19 opt-out. As far as I'm concerned, and stop me if you've heard this before, the Memphis product is one of the best pass-catching backs in this year's draft. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Now, he's a bit undersized, but he was very impactful on the ground and through the air. The opt-out might hurt him in the draft. I think he's there for Seattle in round 2. His 2019 production, by the way, is awesome, right? 200-plus carries, almost 1,500 yards. He was more involved in the ground game and at Memphis than Antonio Gibson was. I'm just saying, just throwing that out there. So maybe he goes round 3. I think he'll be there for Seattle in round 2. If maybe you trade away Rashad Penny, for example, maybe that's a route for the Seahawks to spend a premium pick on a back. It's not what I would suggest. I just think that would be a good move for Seattle. If they're going to go back in round 2, those are the 3 names to watch out for.